So in the third, in we have discussed about demigod worship. We have discussed about Mayavad, and then last discussion class we had the discussion about social service, right? So in the what is it 9, 10, 11? This is sorry, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, so 9, 10, 11, and 12, 13, 14 are similar. Where so in the uh, in 12, 13, and 14, we discussed about demigod worship. And then we also discussed about Mayavad, the impersonalism. And then in the 13th, that was the 12th verse. In the 13th verse, we talked about social service. And the way these three verses have been put together, these three are the alternatives to Krishna that people can choose as objects of worship, right? Demigod worship, impersonalism, or social service. So primarily, these are the three categories where people find alternative to Krishna. And all of them are futile. That's what this book is teaching us. That's what these three verses are about. Okay. So we have talked about uh, some sambhutim and asambhutim. Oh, I had some slides somewhere. Where is that? Share this also. So we were so this is the 12 to 14, right? So 12 to 14, we talked about demigod and personalism, right? And then in 13th, we talked about other things, social service, which people bring as a comparison to uh, the 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 service to the Lord. And in this one, the last one, we are going to talk about material world knowledge and the supreme. So if you remember in the 11th verse also, it was Anyadevahu Vidyaya, Anyadahura Vidyaya, Iti Sushrumad Yenastad Vichakshare. And uh, vidyam cha yes tad vedo bhayam saha vidyayam amritum tirtha vidyayam amritum ashnuta. That was the 11th verse. So where we were told that we have to take the vidya and avidya together to be liberated. And here a similar discussion is going to be brought about in this verse, where similar verse sambhutim cha vinasham cha yes tad vedo bhayam saha vinashena mrityum tirtva sambhutyam amritum ashnuta. So here, the word is not asambhutim, but the meaning is same. So vinasham, the word vinasham has the meaning temporary manifestation. So even though the word is slightly different, but the meaning is same, right? So asambhutim has been replaced by vinasham, but they're both cognate words. Both mean temporary, right? So what will happen when we know both of them? We will be where's that word? Mrityum tirtva. Mrityum tirtva will happen. So mrityum tirtva means by knowledge of the material world, we will be able to navigate through this material world, and by sambhutim, we will attain immortality. So both of them needed. And the way Prabhupada has translated this, sambhutim here as the eternal personality of Godhead, His name, fame, pastimes, qualities, and paraphernalia. So Prabhupada has broadened the scope of the word sambhutim, not just about the Lord, but about the name, place, qualities, and everything. So. Uh, so this verse is emphasizing the dual knowledge one must acquire to transcend the cycle of birth and death. Knowledge of Sambhutim, the eternal transcendental aspect of the Supreme Lord, and the knowledge of Vinasham, the ephemeral, the temporary material manifestation. Knowing only the material part in isolation is insufficient. A balanced understanding enables one to navigate life in this material nature while aspiring for spiritual immortality. That's the way to understand it, right? So So like in Bhagavad Gita, we read, right, that in the um, can anybody remember a verse from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna talked about the spiritual world? Where Krishna mentions that the spiritual world exists. Anyone? Give it a try. You know. So there is a section that comes in the, which is that eighth chapter, comes towards the end. Krishna says, Parastasmatu bhavo anyo avyakta vakta sanatana yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nasyatsu na vinashati. That beyond this material world, there is an eternal realm that never perishes. So that's the eighth chapter. I think it's the 20th verse. There are actually three verses, right? Purusha sa paraphartha bhaktya labhyaspanane asyanta sani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. That's the 18th verse. 18, 19, 20 other three. So that's where Krishna talks about the material, spiritual world. So we have to understand that there is something beyond this material world. There's another eternal world. And there our ultimate shelter is Krishna. And that helps us, that enables one to taste immortality and bliss. That's the meaning of the word sambhuti. So now understanding vinasha, the temporary. So vinasha it denotes the transient material world where everything undergoes creation, maintenance, and destruction. Even the longest living beings, like Lord Brahma, are subject to death. Right? Krishna says uh, that's a place of misery, a shashvatam. What was that verse where Krishna says that? What's that verse? Um, yeah, it comes. That also comes in the eighth chapter. So yeah, so that's the that even the longest lived beings, Brahma, are subject to death. And Bhagavad Gita confirms that. Jatasya hi dhruvor mrityu dhruvam janam mritasya cha. That whoever is born, death is certain for that person. So once we recognize the impermanence of material existence, detachment will start to come in our heart. And simultaneously, there will be a pursuit of eternal truth. Everybody's life is chaotic. This life is a miserable place. Whenever you walk into chaos, whenever chaos walks into your life, you just keep walking. Just keep walking forward, the chaos will go away. There's nothing permanent, nothing's going to stay, right? Like there was a king who wanted to test his ministers, and he said to them that, hey, find me something that will make me happy when I'm sad and make me sad when I'm happy. So one of his ministers goes searching all over his estate and the kingdom, couldn't find anything. Lastly, he comes to a junkyard place, and he not a junkyard, but somebody who's selling old stuff. And he tells him that, hey, do you have such a thing? The person said, yes, I have it for you. And he goes, brings a ring. And what was written on the ring? That this too shall pass. And then the minister takes that ring to the king and says, yes, this will. When you read this, then if you're happy, you'll become sad, and if you're sad, you'll become happy. So that's vinasham, right? So life in this material world is like a boat. We have talked about this in the past, the analogy of the boat. The sea is very stormy. Until we don't realize the eternal shelter of Krishna, that's Sambhutim, one will continuously to be battered by the waves of this birth, death, old age, and disease, vinasha. But as we grow in bhakti, we become very good sailors. It's not that the storms reduce, the storms will continue, but we will become skilled sailors. We will be aware of the material challenges, and we'll also have the ultimate destination in our mind. So we can be Krishna conscious even while we are working in this material world. I think I might have mentioned this story once. People like in the we have know that in the third chapter, Janak, Lord King Janaka's name is mentioned by Krishna, and so he's supposedly one of the self-realized souls. So many king, but then he was also king, as we all know. And many of the sages went to him and they asked him that, how did you become such a self-realized soul? You became such a self-realized soul that Krishna is mentioning you. And he calls all of them. He says, why don't you come all come at lunch? We'll have lunch together. So they all come. They're sitting in the lunchroom. And one of them sees up and he sees that there are a lot of swords hanging up there on the ceiling, with a hanging with a very thin thread. And Janak says to them, nothing to worry. You all know I'm a self-realized soul. Yeah, I won't let you get hurt. You eat your lunch. They all eat lunch. And when they come out, they say, okay, now tell us, how did you become a self-realized soul? And he says, oh, I thought I already answered your question. They said, no, no, you haven't answered our question. He says, okay, tell me this. What were you all thinking about when you were having lunch? Everybody unanimously said, the swords hanging on the ceiling. And they said, yeah, but still you are having lunch, you're talking to each other. So we all can be conscious of Krishna while we are doing this material things in this material world, right? And in a similar analogy of the sea, there is a verse in the 11th canto, 20th chapter, comes this verse number 17. And I have mentioned this verse a few times in the past. Nirdeha madhyam, sulabham sudurlabham, plavam sukalpam, guru karnadharam. Mayanukuleena bhasvateritam, uman bhavabdim natare satmana. So what it means is that nirdeham adyam sulabham sudurlabham. This human body is very rare. It's sudurlabham, right? But then it gives you all the benefits you need to transcend, right? And it's a perfectly constructed boat. And who's the captain of that boat? He's the spiritual master, Guru Karnadharam. So now the word Karna means has it also means ear. So he's your Karnadhara means that he's holding your ear, means that he's constantly passing that knowledge into your ear. Right? And then the instructions of Krishna are favorable winds that are impelling us on the right course. So that's, and actually let's read the purport for it. Give me one second, let me pull it up. So if I remember, it's a good purport also. 11:20:17. I'm sharing this. 11:20:17. And Prabhupada says, oh, it's a short one. That's good. The human body, which is, or somebody wants to read the purport. Somebody can read it.
I can read it.
Please go ahead.
The human body, which is obtained after passing through many inferior forms, is created in such a way that it can award the highest perfection of life. A human being is supposed to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the bona fide spiritual master in the appropriate guide for such service. The causeless mercy of Lord Krishna is compared to favorable wind that help the boat of the body to ply smoothly on the course back home, back to Godhead. Lord Krishna gives his personal instructions in Vedic literature, speak through the bona fide spiritual master, and encourages, warns, and protects his sincere devotee from within the devotee's heart. Such merciful guidance of the Lord moves a sincere soul quickly on the path back to Godhead. But one who cannot understand that the human body is a suitable boat for crossing the ocean of material existence will see no need to accept a captain in the form of the spiritual master and will not at all appreciate the favorable winds of the Lord's mercy. He has no chance of achieving the goal of human life. Acting against his own self-interest, he gradually becomes the killer of his own soul. Hare Krishna.
Yes, and the killer of the soul concept, we also read in the Isopanishad. It came in the second second verse also. So the killer of the soul. If we don't use this life properly, we will not be able to. We are kind of misusing the this human body that we have got if we don't use it for self-realization. And life is always giving us instructions. As long as we keep our eyes and ears open, everything can be instruction for us. There is nothing negative in this world. Everything can serve as an instruction for me. Every single thing. So that's and however, as we are being told here, this is Krishna speaking to Uddhava, that the mercy of the Lord through a bona fide spiritual master makes it happen. So this Sambhutim and Vinasham that we are looking for is even the Vinasham part, the material part, we have to go through the guidance of the spiritual master. This verse doesn't mean that, oh yeah, you for your spiritual part, you can access your spiritual master, reach out to him or her. But for the material part, you can just do whatever you like. No, that's not it. It's just telling us that in both of them, we need a spiritual master and take guidance that how to do it in the material world. So let's see what Prabhupada is telling us in the purport. And where is the, let's look at that. Where is that? 13, 14. Okay. So the way Prabhupada has broken down the purport, he's going to first talk about Vinashena, that this material world will always have death in it. There'll never be a deathless place. We use the words of the Vedas to get to know about this death-filled place and the death-free world. And then he'll talk about how we can transcend this death-filled place. So eventually we have to give up this misconception to gain immortality. We have to give up many misconceptions that I can take care of myself. My parents will take care of me. Oh, the doctor can cure me. No, nothing of that sort. Pharmaceutical companies can make a medicine that can cure me. No. If you have ever seen an ad for a medicine, I've been seeing one ad, it keeps coming up on my, I don't know, Amazon Prime, if I'm watching something on Amazon Prime. It shows up as it's a medicine for an antidepressant. However, there is a very good probability that our kidneys might fail, we might get death, we might have suicidal tendencies and whatnot. So there are so many misconceptions that people live in. That I was reading about this guy that he's a millionaire. He earned a lot of money in this business, something about software or something. And now he's living a life where he has, I think, 26 doctors that are guiding him how to reverse his age. They give him the right food to eat, medicines and every exercise and everything. All these are misconceptions. We're fooling ourselves. So Prabhupada is going to clear that for us. So let's see how Prabhupada is going to walk through it. Okay. So Prabhupada here, the first paragraph, he's telling us that there are 6 things that we have to go through. In material nature, everyone has to go through these 6 things. Right? So these 6 things are birth, growth, maintenance, production of byproducts, deterioration, and finally death. So these are the 6 things. And Prabhupada telling us no one in contact with material nature can be beyond these 6 laws of transformation. So everybody in this material world has to go through these 6 transformations. There is nobody who can go beyond these, right? And then Prabhupada goes on to tell us that he's kind of expanding upon that. He's telling us that it might look as if some people don't die. Somebody can say, oh, Brahma lives forever. But no, he doesn't. Even he lives for a limited time. And there's a verse in the it's in the what's it in the Brahma Samhita, right? Brahma Samhita, that there's a verse that comes that Yastvam Indra Gopam Athavendra Mahosa Karma Bandhanurupa Phala Bhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdati Kintu Cha Bhakti Bhajam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That there is this insect called Indra Gopam. That Indra Gopam only lives. Indra Gopam, if I remember correctly, Indra Gopam is the fly. What's that? The light that gives some light, right? So that fly, it only lives for only a few hours. So from that Indra Gopam all the way to the Brahma, everybody within that span, everybody has to die. So nobody can live forever. And that's what Prabhupada is telling us. But no one in the material world can survive eternally. Right? Nobody can survive eternally. And it's the Vedas that give us that information. Right? And I refer to that chapter 8 towards the end, that section where it talks about that contrast. Let's see if I can pull that up. I'm not sure if you all remember that, but let's see. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Okay, so 15th verse. Let's start from 16. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravarti. From the highest planet to the lowest, it's the source of misery where repeated birth and takes place. And then Krishna goes on to tell that when the Brahma's day comes, living beings become manifest. When the night falls, when Brahma die, or there's a temporary or a permanent destruction, whatever it is, they all go back and merge in the unmanifest. Right? But then he talks about this part 22. Parastasmatu bhavonya vyaktakta sanatana. There's an unmanifest nature. Right? And then he goes on to tell us about that. So yes, so Krishna tells us about that. So Vedas or the Shastras, they tell us about that there is a place, it talks about both, that there is a death-filled world, which is this material world, there's a death-free world. And only by surrender to Krishna can we transcend death. We read in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? Kalo Asmi. Krishna says, I'm time. So everything is irreversibly moving towards death. And an intelligent person, when the death comes, they know what to do. Right? We know the story of King Parikshit. Right? When King Parikshit was cursed, he prepared for death by immersing himself in Krishna through Srimad Bhagavatam. And so he's lived his life. It's not as if he was a married man, he didn't have family, he was living through the material world, as this verse is telling us. But when the time came, he was able to give it up because he was preparing throughout his life. He was doing his material activities with Krishna in his mind. Right? In the second chapter of Bhagavatam, second canto of Bhagavatam, we are told that he gives up everything. Atma Jaya Sutagara, Pashu Dravina Bandhushu. He gives up everything. So that includes Atma, that's body. Jaya means wife. Jaya means wife, yes. Sutta means children. And Agara, Agara means palace. Bandhusu means friends. Pashu means all his army, elephants. So he gives up everything. So this knowledge of Sambhutim and Asambhutim so when we have practiced this concept of bringing Sambhutim with the Vinasha, it gives us an opportunity for eternal life. So that's what Krishna is teaching us. That's what Shastras are teaching us. Everything is pointing in that direction, detachment. And Krishna talks about, okay, give me a verse, and please somebody give me a verse where Krishna, how to say it? He refers to a flower to demonstrate a way people should live in this world. Okay, now somebody has to tell me. Let me see who can tell me, or I'll probably pick up somebody in the list. Let's see.
You are talking about the analogy of the lotus, right?
I don't know. You tell me.
Yes, I remember that. Lotus,
Okay,
the
tell me
way
which
the
verse is. Which verse is that? Anybody can try. It's not just Shalini Mataji has to try. Somebody else can also try.
I'm just remembering that word.
No one who wants to try? Yes, it's a very important verse of Bhagavad Gita. It teaches detachment in action. Engage in this world like a lotus in water. Somebody wants to try? Give it a try. It's not. Is anything wrong in trying? Give it a try. Somebody wants to try? Shalini, do you remember the verse? I know you pointed out the analogy correctly, what we were referring to.
I'm not able to remember.
Okay. So Brahmani Adhyay Karmani Sangam Tyaktva Karotiha Lipyate Nasa Papena Padma Patram Ivam Bhasha. This comes in the 5th chapter, 10th verse. It's a very important verse. If you all are not doing it, please start memorizing Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada told us, not us, but he told everybody, his disciples and his followers, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, everybody, that we should know the Bhagavad Gita threadbare. Right? That's what Prabhupada said. Threadbare means we should know, at least in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is saying what, which chapter talks about what. That should be. And Prabhupada also, if I remember correctly, he said, cram the Bhagavad Gita. So as devotees, not just devotees, we all are preachers. We have people who look up to us. And if we can bring Shastra, it really creates a very good, strong impression to whomever we are explaining it. So yes, Padma Patra, lotus flower. So we have to, so that's what this verse is indicating. Performing our material duties in a way that is not binding to us. It's not sinful to us, just like a lotus is untouched by water. Right? Bhakti obviously puts us in that place, 9 processes of bhakti. And the other thing we can do is using the things for its right perspective. And one concept that is spread throughout Bhagavad Gita is sacrifice, yajna. Um, we can only be satisfied when we do sacrifices, yajna. The word sacrifice itself has a similar prefix as sacred, sacri, sacred. So it means to give to a superior person for a higher purpose. We have to eventually give up everything. So why not give it up at the right time for the right purpose so that we can get the right benefit? It's not right. Like there was this person, he was a miser, and his friends would always tell him, "Oh, you should do some sacrifice, give something for charity." And he said, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it." So he was a merchant of caps. He would sell caps from village to village. One day, the wind blew, and all his caps flew away, and they went into a pool of mud nearby. And he couldn't do anything with them now. So he said, "Oh, Krishna, I offer these to you." No, no, not that way. Right? We have to do it in the right way, right time, place, and circumstance, as Krishna explains in the 17th chapter. So living like a lotus, that's something this verse is exemplifying to us. Right? And Prabhupada is telling us in this verse that no one can survive eternally. So why not, while we are alive, while we have the strength, we have the resources, why not use those for Krishna's service? Okay. The the way Christians, um, the current Christian concept is that this life is linear, right? It eventually means that after this, because Christians don't believe in rebirth, they say that once you die, you go back to heaven or hell, wherever it is, and you live there eternally. But the bhakti process teaches us that it's a cyclic pattern, right? Uh, we're moving in a cycle. But the goal in that cycle is not to get to the top of the wheel. The goal is to get out of the wheel. Right? You still be a part of that cycle. You have to go through it. we all have to go through it, right? But then can we use that cycle in a way that I can get out of it? Unfortunately, we have been using human intelligence for technological improvement, and that's fine, that's a good thing. But psychologically, we have gone back. We have regressed psychologically. So we should do anything that we need to get out of this cycle. Right? Yeah. Let's see what else Prabhupada is saying. Any thoughts or comments before we keep moving forward? Anyone?
Prabhuji, I'm not sure if I saw incorrectly on your PowerPoint. You mentioned in the verse is Sambhutam is the personality of Godhead, right?
Yes.
Now the one before where you were giving a recap, I thought it was reversed, but Sambhutam and Asambhutam.
I saw that.
Oh,
Sambhutam.
in here, you mean?
Yeah,
No,
yeah. See
Sambhutam.
where it says verse and then.
So
Yeah,
sorry,
and
I didn't
then
get you. Oh, probably the 13th verse you mean. I think, yeah, this or 13th and 14th probably is reversed, right? You're right. Okay. Yeah, yeah, you're right. So, yeah.
No,
Okay.
the other way around, Prabhu.
yeah, no. You
14
see
is
how you have Sambhutam, you have anything other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So this is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is
Yeah.
right. That's the way to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. And I think for
Yeah, I
this one
just
also it
wanted
has to change, right?
other way around, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to mention just in case when we're reviewing that, we don't get confused, bro. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for pointing it out. Let me fix it before I forget. Oops. Yes, that's the way to understand it. Yep. Okay, let's go back to the verse. Anything else, anyone? Any thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, ji.
Sorry. We were talking about the death today, and I just wanted to know, is the death experienced in this world is different from the upper planetary system?
Is the death experience different? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, like here the body dies and it's kind of burned, or like it's put into some, in the I don't. I'm not getting that word. That other people do, like they take it to the ground and put the body there,
Hmm.
and
Okay. You
like
mean like
in the upper
cremation, right?
planetary system, is it like that or different?
Srimati, I can in the uh, 8 chapter 16th verse, Krishna tells us this, right? Brahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamupetya tu kauntya punarjanma na vidyate. And then, no, sorry, that the 15th verse, mamupetya punarjanma dukhalyam ashashvatam. So, napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim param bhavati. So Krishna is telling us, right? Brahma bhuvana loka. Brahma to Bhuva. Bhuvanal means that anywhere in this material creation, all the 14 planetary system, it's Dukhalyam and it's Ashashvatam. It's temporary, and the word Dukhalyam means it's a place of misery. So death, birth, age and death, old age, death, disease, and birth, all that exists in everywhere in the entire creation. Right? And death, so the pangs of death or the misery that a person feels at the time of death is not okay. Yes, the pain is there, the physical part is there, but that is a very minimal part. What's more is the psychologically what the person is going through, because the person is leaving everything now. Every identity that person had created is gone, is going to go away. The person is now realizing it. So that's the main source of misery for any living entity. I remember being with this person who was about to die very close to my house, and he was trying to write a check for the local temple. And he was telling that how it's very hard for him that even though he knows that he's going to die within a few days, still he's not able to part away from the money that he has collected in his bank. That's a misery. Another thing I noticed from him, even till the when he was suffering from cancer, his whole body was in pain, severe pain. I think he was taking morphine sometimes for pain also. He wanted to eat pizza and drink Coke in that last time of his death, living. And all he could eat was one bite of the pizza. That's all he could eat. That was the second misery he was going through, that he wanted to eat something but could not. He had attachments to the money that he had collected and he can't let go of it. Third thing, he would sometimes cry in front of me, telling me that my wife, he was separated from his wife, his children were grown away. Do you know that all three of them were living, his son and his wife, they were not far off from his house, but they would never come to see him. And he would sometimes cry. So what I'm trying to hint at is the misery of death, physical misery, physical pain is not that a big impact or big source of misery. The bigger source of misery is our attachments, and those attachments are similar throughout this material creation. Sorry, a long answer, but yes, that's what it is, not. Was that helpful for you, Anthony?
Yes, Prabhu, to an extent, I understand the process that is experienced within this material world. But how about I wanted to know the difference, the upper planetary system. Is it the same or is it kind of different in upper planetary system? When the body, I mean, I heard that their body is kind of different than ours.
No, Mati. The bodies have the same 5 elements. The bodies are not different. In the entire material world, 14 worlds, every living entity has a body that's perishable. Nobody has a permanent body. They all are going to die. All of their bodies are going to go back. All the elements are going to go back to nature, whichever planet they are living at. So yes, to answer, yes, there's no difference in that.
So the death experience by them is similar to what we experience in this
Yes.
material world.
Yes, it's same.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I wanted to add that, like, the process of birth for, like, for example, for demigods, or, the spiritual beings in the higher planets, they don't go through same type of birth as humans do. So perhaps the death experience may be different from how we how human beings experience death. So
Prabhu,
like,
what can you share this? Where have you read that in other planetary systems they're not born in the way that like from a mother and father?
No, like human beings, there might be like a 9-month period in the womb, but the demigods, the birth is sort of like automatic, and it's just not the same process. But I'll find a reference. I'll send to
Yeah,
you.
if you have a reference, that will be helpful, Prabhu, because
Yeah.
that's what my understanding is from what Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita, that it's kind of the same throughout the living, all the 14 planetary systems. There is no, it's not like, I mean, the process could be different, but then the birth, death, old age, and disease, it's
Yeah.
there in all the planets.
That's a given. Of
Yeah.
course, it's a finite lifetime
Yeah.
that even the demigods have.
Yeah, there might be a finer details different here and there. Yeah, I understand that. But yeah, eventually all these, Prabhupada has told us that all these 4 miseries, they are same throughout. Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, but the process could be different. Yeah, I think that's what you're hinting at. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, instead of like 9 months, it may be
might be
automatic.
shorter.
The child appears like automatically, that sort of a thing.
Yeah, actually, that sounds like something that I was looking for, because I wanted to know the process, not that I already know that is there everywhere. I mean, from that planet to this planet, but the process might be different. So I was curious to know, is it the same thing or is it a different thing? So thank you for bringing that about. Maybe we have to research on that subject a little bit more. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, if you find something, let me know. But Krishna again and again tells us the same thing. In the 14th chapter also, Krishna talks about this. Gunanetan atityatrin dehi deha samudbhavam janma mrityu jara vyadhi vimukto amritam ashnute. The 14th chapter, Krishna says that, and the word, or let me share that. Excuse me 1 second.
Yeah, because I asked that question because I read somewhere that their body is not exactly like us, the upper
See that,
planetary
well, see,
beings.
bodies might be different. Even in this planet, Earth planet, everybody's body is not the same, right? I am 5 feet 11. There are people in some countries that are easily 6.5 feet is the standard height. Even in this world, people are different. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, in every planetary system, people can be different. However, what I wanted to tell you was like this verse. If you see, this is 14:20. When an embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar. Right. So embodied beings have to go through these four things, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no way of us moving away from these four things. And when Prabhupada or Krishna is saying embodied beings and associated with the three modes, these three modes are prevalent across this 14 planetary systems. These three modes are what's running this material material worlds,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these processes are going to be everywhere. Yes, finer details can be different. Somewhere, even in this planet, right? We know that Prabhupada has told us that earlier people used to live for a longer period of time, thousands of years. Now we live for 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
So processes can be different everywhere. But
Yeah.
sorry, not processes. The details can be different everywhere. The principle still remains the same.
Yeah.
Misery through birth, death, old age, and disease. That's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
thank you for bringing that out. That's an interesting concept. Yeah,
Yeah.
if anybody finds any more references for that, please share. It's an interesting thing to understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Risala Krishna Prabhu, for bringing out the finer details. Okay. Let's see what else is Prabhupada saying in there. And Prabhupada talks about what I mentioned, that Prabhupada is referring that here, how there is this material world and the spiritual world. So the 820 is referring to that. And then let's see. And then Prabhupada is telling us that living beings who live on the higher planetary systems like sun, moon, and so forth, all are merged into the water of devastation during the night of Brahma. They all become unmanifest. They go back to Pradhan, and then they are manifest again later on, depending on where they were. They are again manifest again, right? Uh, okay, so then Prabhupada is talking about the different planets. So let's see. What is Prabhupada saying? On the material planets, everyone from Brahma down to the ant is trying to lord it over material nature. And this is the material disease. So as we were just seeing that the three modes of material nature are binding everybody right from the smallest living entity all the way up to the smartest living entity in this creation of 14 planets, Brahma. And we all are suffering from the same material disease that we are trying to lord it over the material nature. Oh, that's very interesting. I like the word how Prabhupada always puts it, that we are trying to lord it over the material nature, right? Uh, and what this verse is telling us, you can exist in it, but not try to lord it, right? When we live according to what Krishna is teaching us, then there is no fear. Right? The fear is only in our lives is existing because we have turned away from Krishna, and I feel that I am all in all and I have to take care of everything. right? Bhayam dviti abhivineshata sayad ishadapi tasya viprayo smriti. 11th canto comes in the second chapter. Second chapter? Yes, probably one of the Nava Yogendras is speaking that. He says, Bhayam dviti abhivineshata sayad. That bhayam comes when we are dvitiya, when we think that we are separate from Krishna and I have my own things to take care of and I am all in all. Right? But for a devotee, that's not what a devotee thinks. Devotee is not trying to lord it over material nature. And when the death comes to a devotee, it's not misery. Krishna, the devotee is okay. He's not suffering. Right? Just like when a cat, Prabhupada gives this example that cat has a kitten, and cat also holds a rat in his mouth. But the kitten is not fearful, but the rat is fearful. Right? So we in this material world, we are suffering. How are we suffering? We are sorrowful about the past. Right? Whatever everybody has done to us in the past, it torments us. We are painful about the present. My present is falling apart. I'm getting old. I'm losing hair, wrinkles on my skin, or whatnot. And about the future, I'm fearful. Where will I exist? What will happen to me? So for a devotee, these sorrows are not there because he or she is detached from them. Right? So for a devotee, the pain that he or she goes through at the time of death is just a minor inconvenience. Right? Uh, so that's the way a devotee sees it. A devotee is not afraid of the future. Okay, in one sense, the devotee is not trying to lord it over the material nature. Okay, let's see what Prabhupada is bringing up again. Unfortunately, foolish men have misinterpreted this prime teaching and misled the masses of people in diverse ways. So, what teaching Prabhupada is talking about is the 1866 verse, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamikam Sharanam Vraja. People have been urged to open hospitals, but not to educate themselves to enter into the spiritual kingdom by devotional service. This refers back again to the last verse we read, the last discussion, last class we had. They have been taught to take interest only in temporary relief work, which can never bring real happiness to the living entity. They start varieties of public and semi-government institutions to tackle the devastating power of nature, but they don't know how to pacify insurmountable nature. This section highlights the misdirected focus of a materialistic society, where people prioritize temporary material relief over eternal spiritual solutions. Right? Humanitarian efforts, opening hospitals, providing temporary aid, that can address immediate needs, no doubt. But they fail to solve the root of suffering, ignorance of the soul's eternal nature. Right? I just give you an example of modern medicine. A decade or so ago, I was working on a medicine uh, which was being used for cancer. It was each injection was $2,000, and I'm talking about a decade ago. And it only extended the life of the patient by 3 months. So that's modern medicine. That's what it does. So that's the temporary nature of the material material solutions. And Krishna says this, right? Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaram yoganam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhira satra namuyate. This body is undergoing changes, childhood, old age, childhood, youth, old age. But a person who is self-realized does not bother about that. And then Prabhupada is referring to government institutions. There are NGOs that are working tirelessly to combat climate change. But we cannot stop natural disasters, floods, wildfires, pandemics. They're going to keep on happening. So all our material efforts, they should not distract one from the primary goal of self-realization. A balanced approach should be there. Because Krishna himself says that this material energy is unsurmountable. Daivi aisha gunamai mam maya durattaye mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Right? And people don't know that this act of engaging them in this material world in an improper way is entangling them more and more in the cycle of suffering. Right? When Prahlad Maharaj says this in the 5th canto, when he's saying. So yeah, so that's what Prabhupada is highlighting here. Right? And there is the spiritual solutions are given by Krishna to us. In the 3rd chapter, he talks about it. Yagyarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. That work as a yagya, do it as an offering to Krishna. Right? So, like ISKCON has this, prasadam distribution, and we also do Sankirtan. So we are addressing both needs, material and spiritual. So addressing immediate needs is important, no doubt, but then real compassion involves providing the knowledge and tools for liberation. Right? It's not about what we have, but what we do with what we have is what makes the difference. Then it's no more a burden. It's not crushing. It's no more crushing. It's a source of spiritual happiness. We must therefore save ourselves and our fellow men in the right way. There is no question of liking or disliking the truth. It is there. If we want to be saved from repeated birth and death, we must take to the devotional service of the Lord. There can be no compromise, for this is a matter of necessity. Right? So Prabhupada is saying, Prabhupada is highlighting one thing here. Save ourselves and our fellow men. So first, save ourselves and save others. Janma sarthaka kari, karo paropkar. Mahaprabhu told, Janma sarthaka kari. You make your janma sarthak, make your life valuable by taking up this knowledge. And then help others. In the airplanes, we are told in case of emergency that we should put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, rather than putting it on our children and being more compassionate. No. So it's that analogy is profoundly relevant when discussing spiritual advancement. So what it teaches and what Prabhupada is telling us that before we can effectively help others, we must first stabilize and equip ourselves with the necessary tools and wisdom. Make sure that you are whole enough that you can give to others. Just as an oxygen mask allows you to breathe in an emergency, spiritual practices provide us the strength and clarity to uplift ourselves and others. And spiritual practices have to be strict, serious, and sincere. So by saving ourselves through this act of devotion, we can guide others also out of the turbulence of material life. And that's what truly means to save ourselves, save our fellow men in the right way. You put on the mask first and then help others. Krishna talks about this in the Bhagavad Gita also. Udaret atmanatmanam, na atmanam avasadayet, atmeva hi atmano bandhur, atmeva ripuratma. So Krishna is telling us that control your mind. Deliver yourself with the help of your mind. So control your mind. Self-responsibility in spiritual growth. Look for Prabhupada. Look, a very good example is Prabhupada himself. He was initiated in 1922. He met his master. 1933 he was initiated. 1966 65 he came to US. That's a long period in between where he was gaining that strength. coming to a point where he can give it to others in a very potent way. And Prabhupada is saying here in this last paragraph, there is no question of liking or disliking the truth. Truth is absolute. It's not a subject of preference. Law of gravity exists regardless of whether I like it or not. Spiritual truths also remain unaffected by personal opinions or preferences. As they say, there are no atheists in the foxhole. They say, right? So it's not about that, oh, no, I don't believe in God, I'm an atheist. No. When the time comes, everybody believes in God. It's not about that a principle it's not a subject to preference. This Janma Jaravadi is a harsh reality of material life. Nobody can escape it. So we cannot compromise in spiritual life. It's not a matter of negotiation. It's a matter of necessity. Okay, I think that's the end of this purport. Any thoughts, any comments, questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I really like the last second paragraph from the bottom, where Prabhupada is explaining that the philanthropic services have not much value as compared to the happiness we can derive from doing the service to the Lord. And generally speaking, if we see the world around us, people generally appreciate the social work done, and they see it as the service done to the Lord himself, most of them. They really fail to understand that we have to actually address the root cause, what Prabhupada is indicating here. And maybe this would be one of the reasons, because most of the people could not understand that concept, may not have understood Prabhupada as well. And I know one lady, she's a very good philanthropist, and she's highly acclaimed for her services. And she never liked that the donation be given to the temples and all that. She said, why don't people give it for this kind of service? So, but this purport, when I read along with it, that thought came to me, and it's really very evident that we have to really address the root cause of everything, and then everything will become peaceful and blissful for us, and the problems that we are facing will be eradicated permanently. Thank you for bringing that about.
No, thank you for highlighting this. Yes, and it's not, and people are actually just so distracted that this thought doesn't fit into their mind. So we all are lucky that we have this kind of an association and support system, books that not just tell us about it, but keep reminding about it to us all the time. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu, we certainly are lucky to have it, because it's rarely that people will come to that kind of, very few people will come to that understanding, but majority will remain in that. But yes, our job is to bring them to this kind of understanding. So Prabhupada has really given us a great tool to continue onto that path. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, anything else? Last minute? Anyone? No? Okay, we'll wrap up. We'll meet next week. Please continue
Thank
reading
you.
the
Hare
purports.
Krishna, Prabhu. Have
Hare
a good.
Krishna.